STORMY on Aussie JetSetter. We're flying to the Australian bush capital of Canberra on a QantasLink Dash 8 Q400. For a short 40-minute commuter flight down from Sydney, we somehow managed to spend 10 times that on the ground. I connect from an international flight into Australia to a domestic flight on Qantas, showing you what the Qantas seamless transfer experience is like, taking a really cool airside bus in the process. I spent much of the afternoon at the Sydney Domestic Qantas Club, and with delays and stormy skies setting in, I've rerouted but nonetheless turbulent flight ensures one where we're confined to our seats. I find myself on a race against time to meet my next connecting flight in Canberra. So without further ado, come join me and let's go. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Sydney International Airport. We're actually across the road from the International Terminal building, top of the car park across the road on level 8, which offers magnificent views of the airfield. If you're wondering why I'm at the international side of the airport, there's good reason actually. We actually flew in this morning on a very pleasant flight from Fiji on the national carrier of Fiji, that is Fiji Airways. Very pleasant flight this morning from Nandi, maybe 4.5, 5 hours or so. Actually booked this flight all the way from Nandi to Perth with points and got this very weird routing. Goes via Canberra, then it continues on to Perth. So yeah, we are now going to be flying to Canberra. It's a short hop down to Canberra today on a Dash 8 Q400. Last time I've flown on a QantasLink Q400 was a couple of years ago between Townsville and Cairns. Really enjoyed the experience. So yeah, looking forward to see what the experience is like on the short hop between Sydney and Canberra. Did fly this route last year on Link Airways on behalf of Virgin Australia. That was on the Saab 340 aircraft. Thought that was a pretty cool experience. I've flown the Dash 8 Q400 on this route before, also with QantasLink, though that was a long time ago. So really looking forward to seeing what the short hop on QantasLink down to Canberra today is like, as I am transferring from an international flight both to a QantasLink and also regular Qantas flight today. That means I can use the Qantas transfer desk here at the international terminal. Obviously you do have to collect your bags, clear customs and immigration, etc, etc. Then you just got to recheck it through at the dedicated counter. Then they take you airside on the airside transit bus over to the T3. So already done all that, all very seamless. I'll show you what the experience is like, and yeah, we'll head over to Terminal 3 now and come join me as we head to Canberra. Should be a good one. Before we transfer over to Terminal 3, let's have a look at our very routine flight down to the nation's capital on QF1453 today, because their flight time is 55 minutes, but the average flight time is actually just 39 minutes to cover the great circle distance of 236 kilometres down to the Australian Capital Territory. As I alluded to before, we're actively trying to avoid some pretty severe storm systems over the southern highlands, so we're detouring a little bit north out over the Blue Mountains first, adding an extra 5-10 minutes journey time. Looking to the bigger picture, today's short little hop is just a small part of a much bigger Qantas Classic Flight Reward redemption, one that's taken me on 3 flights a day all the way from Nandi in Fiji to Perth in West Australia. 15 hours and 45 minutes total journey time. Anyway, as we head from level 8 of the car park across the road to the international arrivals area where our Qantas seamless transfer desk is, let me tell you quickly a little bit about Sydney Airport. It's the largest airport in the whole of Australia, located about 8 kilometres south of the Central Business District. Passenger traffic really is booming again here in Sydney. The 2024 statistics show that annual passenger growth here in Sydney was the best it's ever been since prior to the pandemic. The Q4 passenger statistics for 2024 showed the strongest passenger quarterly traffic since 2019. In total, over 41 million passengers moved through the terminal in 2024, which is shy under the record numbers reached between 2016 and 2019, which is about 44 million passengers. With Sydney soon to enjoy the opening of its second brand new Western Sydney International Airport in early 2026, I dare say peak passenger numbers may very well now have peaked at Kingston Smith International Airport. Anyway, on to the international to domestic transfer experience here with Qantas at Sydney International. Luckily, they do have a dedicated process for inbound international arrivals. Once clearing immigration and customs, proceed to the end of the arrivals area. Qantas have this dedicated transfer desk where you can recheck in your bags. Then from there you go through security to a waiting bus bay, which will take you over to the domestic terminal. So very cool little setup Qantas have here for transferring to domestic flights here in Sydney. So yeah, very cool little setup here, kind of like a secluded little satellite terminal. You can recheck in your bags, and yeah, you go through a security checkpoint, which is very quiet this time of day. And yeah, you get on the bus, which is not gazetted to have a timetable, but it's believed to be about every 15-20 minutes. That takes you airside with some really amazing views up and close to all the big and small aircraft along the way. Then it lands you directly in the middle of Terminal 3. No need to go through any more security checks once you're there. So Qantas very much have the best international to domestic transfer experience here in Sydney. That also extends to other arriving airlines that are partnered with Qantas that have onward connections with Qantas, such as today where I'm coming in on Fiji Airways. So provided the Qantas seamless transfer experience is actually operating, it is indeed a very seamless, easy experience. They relieve you of your checked bags, recheck them in, and then they securely transport you airside in this very cool journey today. All very easy indeed. Much better than having to get the public T-bus, which is free but does take public roads and is certainly a longer, more uncomfortable experience. Especially when you've got to deal with big crowds of everyone lugging their own checked luggage. You could also get the Airlink train. That is probably the quickest way to transfer between the two terminals, but getting lugged a ridiculous $9.70 for a 2-minute journey is really hard to swallow in my opinion. Aside from Qantas, as far as I'm aware, Virgin Australia is the only other airline here in Sydney that have an international to domestic transfer desk. That is pretty well located immediately after clearing customs. Here you can recheck your bags, they take it off you, but yeah, you still have to make your own way on the T-bus or the train over to the terminal. And just like that, after only about 5 minutes or so on this very cool bus ride today, probably about half the time of taking the public T-bus, we arrived and dropped off in the heart of Terminal 3. And just like that, our transfer from our international flight to our domestic flight is all complete. Really seamless experience at the transfer desk at Sydney International. Then you kind of go through a sort of separate security area, and then yeah, you get on the transfer bus. Fortunately, you just missed it, so it was about 15-20 minute wait to the next one. But yeah, you get on the transfer bus and it drops you right off into the heart of Terminal 3. Absolutely amazing experience doing the transfer bus. As an advocate, you never get sick of having a bus ride on the tarmac. Get to see all the big planes, everything from A380s to the Dashes, so really great fun experience. Anyway, a good friend of mine's Ryan, also a work colleague of mine's, otherwise known as #FunGuideTravels on Instagram. Please do check out his page. He's given me a couple Qantas Club passes because he ain't able to use them unfortunately before they expire. So a huge thank you to Ryan for that. So yeah, let's go and check out the Qantas Club now. Should be a good one. And just like that, welcome to the Qantas Club here in Sydney, which must be one of, if not the biggest Qantas Club I've ever been. Probably the biggest Qantas Club in Australia, I would imagine. Being based here in Sydney and operating so many flights at Sydney Airport, Qantas Club is pretty well open throughout the day, 7 days a week. Officially open 60 minutes prior to the first departure of the day and is open all the way through to the last Qantas departure. In theory, eligible Jetstar customers could also use the Qantas Club as well. Not overly practical, however, because Jetstar fly in the neighbouring Terminal 2. So you would have to go through security again. Just keep that in mind. As you would expect, being one of Qantas's flagship Qantas Club lounges, Here in Sydney, you pretty well got everything you'd expect out of a Qantas club. Huge range of seating, everything from relaxing, doing some work, or even socialising amongst family and friends. Whilst the lounge has several overflow areas for food and beverage, the main part of the food and beverage service always originates in the centre of the lounge. Got a good range of self-service food options, including several hot food options in the all-day dining menu. Neither really suited me, unfortunately, due to a nut allergy, so I just got a plate from the self-service salad bar. Talking of bars, there's a really good attended bar here at the Sydney Qantas Club. Counted at least 6 varieties of beer on tap, including craft beers, also additional beers in stubbies. Good self-service wine selection as well, definitely a few white and red varieties as well as sparkling. The bar also has barista made coffee as well. In terms of views, no real direct views of the runway per se, but yeah, got a little bit of a view of the tarmac action, including the sheds for the Dash 8s, which is cool to see, and interestingly got a good view of the Rudolph 737, which is interesting because Christmas was now nearly 2 months ago. It's February, so I wonder if they're just going to roll with this livery again until next Christmas. Anyway, after spending much of a very enjoyable afternoon in the lounge, and after quite a few concerns about the weather and a 15-minute delay text message from Qantas, now time to head over to gate 17, where our flight is expected to depart about 15 minutes behind schedule. Before we head on board, let's have a look at some of the aircraft information before I ride down to the nation's capital this evening. So we're flying on a de Havilland Canada Dash 8 Q400, first delivered direct to QantasLink, or more technically correct, the wholly owned subsidiary of Qantas, that is Sunstate Airlines, in December 2009. Registration on this one is Victor Hotel, Quebec, Oscar Victor. Just like that, much of my relief boarding is called, maybe about 15 minutes behind schedule, but much of a relief nonetheless, as it's looking like I'm still going to make my flight in Canberra back to Perth late this evening. Interestingly, it's boarding via an aero bridge which ends up on stairs. Never really seen this before, to be honest. And just like that, welcome on board our QantasLink Dash 8 Q400, which is by far the most dominant aircraft type in the QantasLink's impressive fleet of 94 aircraft. In total, QantasLink have got 33 Dash 8 Q400s in their fleet, the largest of the Dash 8 family that they have. They've also got the Dash 8 200 and the Dash 8 300 as well. Seat pitch comes in a respectable 31 inches, nothing amazing but nothing too shabby, perfectly fine for the very short flights that the Dash 8 operates for Qantas. Aside from that, you've got a fold back tray table as well, and your regular in-flight literature, which is pretty well just your safety briefing card and an air sickness bag. Interestingly enough, there was no Qantas magazine provided.
So if you are likely to need the facilities on board throughout the duration of our flight, we welcome you to use them on the ground here before we depart Sydney, as we may not get a chance to let you out of your seat. There's upfront flying us, we have Captain Mark Pavelski, who's joined by so from Submarine Lieutenant. On this welcome back on our Qantas, some on board frequent flyers, along with our Qantas Business and Awards members on this QantasLink flight QM1453 through to Canberra. We're en route to Canberra, I should say. We will hand out borders just before we get going, okay? Alright, have you enjoyed your flight to Canberra this evening?
As you can hear in the pre-flight announcement, the crew were expecting pretty stormy conditions ahead for this evening's flight, pretty well warning us that was pretty likely we weren't going to be able to get out our seat at all. So knowing this situation, they were very proactive in handing out pre-departure bottles of water, which was good to see. Anyway, without further ado, let's now taxi out to the runway and enjoy some good views of Sydney before the weather changes pretty quickly ahead of a pretty turbulent ride down to Canberra this evening. And just like that, folks, after a smoother than expected takeoff out of Sydney, we are just about reaching cruising altitude for today's flight of 16,000 feet. But as expected, and looking at the rain radar prior to the flight, much of the severe weather is over the southern highlands en route between Sydney and Canberra, and this is where the weather does get pretty turbulent and stormy outside. At this point in time, I'm probably 95% sure that there's going to be no in-flight service on today's journey, and everyone, including the crew, are going to be securely fastened at their seats for the duration of the flight. But hey, at the end of the day, safety is the number one priority, and you wouldn't want any passengers or crew getting injured for the sake of cheese and crackers and tea and coffee. I guess let's hear from the pilot itself to fully understand what weather situation is happening outside and how that may be impacting our journey down to Canberra this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, my name is Martin Kowski, captain on today's flight. Again, welcome aboard. QantasLink flight through to Canberra. We're just level now at 16,000 feet and maneuvering well right at the standard track towards Canberra. There's quite a lot of thunderstorm activity out to the southwest of Sydney over the Royal National Park, so we've headed out over the Blue Mountains out by Canberra, now heading down towards Canberra before maneuvering into Canberra on the north. Leading towards the south today. At this stage, we've made just up a little bit of time. Should be disembarking the aircraft behind schedule still, around about 55 minutes past 6 this evening, so about 25 minutes behind schedule. I do apologise if that's caused any inconvenience to you today, but that is just due to the turbulence and weather that's been around in the region today. It's been behind schedule, so again, apologies. We're clear of most of it, but we are anticipating the possibility that we could get some turbulence, so I'm going to leave the seatbelts on for the rest of the flight. Thanks so much for the seating side, folks. Please sit back, relax, enjoy the rest of the flight, and once again, welcome.
So there you have it, folks, official confirmation from the pilot that we're going to be seated for the duration of the flight. No real surprises there. Interestingly enough, even on such a short flight, our weather can really play a disruption we really had to detour out over the Blue Mountains today, adding a bit of extra journey time to what is only a very short journey. So for these perfectly understandable safety reasons at mine, there is no in-flight food and beverage service on today's flight, apart from the preemptive bottle of water that was handed out prior to departure, which surprisingly tasted exactly like water. Usually on a flight like this, you would get a snack and drink service suited to the time of day, so that's usually tea and coffee and a snack in the morning. Maybe a snack with maybe alcoholic beverages such on a flight like late in the afternoon as today. So overall, considering the very stormy skies down below, aircrafts handled the turbulence pretty well today in my opinion, being best described as moderate, certainly been on more severe turbulent flights on this route between Sydney and Canberra before. The reality is these Dash 8 Q400s, along with the Saab 340 operated by Link Airways for Virgin Australia, they traverse these skies between Sydney and Canberra all day long, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, with plenty of afternoon storms forming over the spring and summer months. Really just comes with the territory of regular commuting on the Sydney to Canberra route, the stormy conditions. Got full confidence in the pilots to know when how much is too much when it comes to flying these turboprops through storms. Anyway, with that being said, we're now ready to commence our final descent into Australia's bush capital at Canberra International Airport. So with much of the weather behind us, what better time now to sit back, relax and enjoy the rest of the landing into Canberra this evening.
Welcome to Canberra. The seatbelt sign is still on for reservation seating with your seatbelt fastened. Please not purposeful retrieving items of baggage from the rear of the aircraft. Arrange passengers with premium handler here to place their baggage with the aircraft stairs or ramps to collect your bags. On behalf of QantasLink and the team today, welcome to Canberra. Thanks for flying with us. We hope you enjoy the flight. We look forward to seeing you on the network again soon.
And just like that, welcome back to the nation's capital. Great to be back firmly on the ground after some pretty turbulent conditions on route. Also made it just in time, got a really short turnaround now, only about 20 minutes or so on the ground, where we're going to be getting on a Boeing 737-800 through to Perth. Apologies, I've got absolutely no time to do an on-screen outro today, because I've got a flight to catch to Perth in a matter of minutes. And to make things even more hectic, I've got a complimentary lounge invitation linked ahead of that flight, which is actually going to get me into the Qantas business class lounge, as the Qantas Club is closed at this time of day. So you really want to showcase that ahead of the next flight. And I've only got 15 minutes to do it. But all in all, on today's flight, nothing particularly noteworthy to remark about today's experience. apart from the turbulent conditions which meant no in-flight service, although that was perfectly understandable due to safety reasons. Had absolutely no need to catch his flight, apart from it being a part of my classic flight reward redemption from Nandi to Perth via Sydney and Canberra, but somehow that was the most cost-effective option for Qantas. By the end of the day, flight kept me going in the right direction with minimal delay considering the bad weather. Transfer experience was really good in Sydney, and the Qantas Club was really enjoyable this Saturday afternoon, so no complaints in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this flight review, the first one I released in 2025, really appreciate if you could just give it a like, leave a comment, share amongst your family and friends, and of course, whatever brings you to my channel, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing so you won't miss my next content. Also, feel free to visit my website, AussieJetSetter.com, and my socials in the description link below. But until next one, thanks for watching and safe travels, wherever that might take ya.